And he said, Linda, no matter what age you are, you always find the best things that you can like about that age. And so that's a philosophy that I've kind of carried on. No matter what age I am, and getting older, obviously, I've tried to find the best things I could about being that age. And I decided to become a nurse when I was about 4 years old. It was during World War II, and we used to receive Life magazine, and one of the cover pictures was a nurse, and with a big red cross on her uniform. My dad was drafted, so he was gone for 2 years. But my mom had then my brother and I, and my brother was 4 years younger than me, so, and my mom used to have ration cards, I remember that, that she'd have to take. She'd put us in a wagon, take us to the store, and she'd have allowed to buy so much meat, so much sugar. I would eat candy, but I'd sneak it and hide under a china cabinet. My mother wouldn't know where I was until she heard crunch, crunch, crunch. I was crunching this hard candy. We moved to Olmsted Falls when I was 6, and my grandparents moved in with us. My grandfather died the year after we moved in, and that was pretty scary to me. That was my first brush with death, and it was hard for me to understand what it was all about and why he couldn't come back. I was 7, and my mother got TB, and she had to go away to a sanitarium. We only got to see my mother like twice a year, that we got taken by my dad to the sanitarium, and we had to wear gloves and gowns and masks, and I don't think we were allowed to hug her. So it was hard for her, and it was hard for us too. When there was a group of girls that I really wanted to be friends with, but I didn't quite know if I would fit in, and my mother, she sat me down and she said, Linda, if you want to meet these people, you just have to go up and be their friend and be friendly with them. And so she gave me the courage to meet these girls, which then became my friends for the rest of my life. I had a wonderful time as a teenager. I loved to sing. I loved rock and roll. I loved to dance. I had friends over quite a bit, and we'd play records and just talk and visit. And I was in the plays. I loved having roles in the plays, the junior play and the senior play. And at one time I thought if I didn't become a nurse, I'd like to become an actress, because I thought that was really neat. I thought all my friends were getting married, and I thought I might as well do it too. It was probably the wrong reason, but I did grow to love him, So when we decided we were ready for children, we couldn't have any children. It just didn't work out for us. So we decided to adopt. And then at that time, I quit work, and I stayed home to raise the children. So we moved there and did not sell the other house, so we had 2 mortgages right off the bat, and the mortgage at the farm was very high because it was assumed that we would have someone share this with us. So we were only there 2 months when I had to go back to work as often as I could, so I got a job at Lodi Hospital. And we were very poor for quite a while. It was pretty hard to survive, and we had to start selling some of our stuff because my husband lost his job. And he told me that he had worked the first 25 years of our marriage, and now it was my turn to carry the load. So I was the wage earner and the mother, and had very little assistance. And then he got just kind of verbally abusive. So after he had a fight with my son, and he had to leave the house, he couldn't stay with us anymore at 16. He started to pick on my daughter, and I decided that was enough. I just couldn't do it anymore. I would pray, I think the Lord helped me through it. I didn't always give him the credit, because I felt like I had to do this, and so I asked for help, but I often didn't recognize the ways that he worked. Just God has always been a part of my life, and I'm not sure how to say it, just that I do have faith and I do believe. And I was a director of nursing at Lodi Hospital, and then I was a manager and visiting nurse service for 17 years. So I learned to work with other people and to be an organizer, and I tried to be kind to all these people that I supervised, to try to make their work pleasant for them and have a good outcome for the patients. So that everything I did shaped me, whether good or bad. One of the things I learned early on was, because I was compassionate when people would die, the first few times I was a charge nurse of that, at least one time, I felt so bad. I had to go in the utility room and bawl. My supervisor came up and grabbed a hold of me and said, "You cannot do that. You have to turn around. You have a family you need to console. You can't be in here crying." But I couldn't sleep at night, and when I'd lose people, I went home and carried the grief with me, and so I learned how to be empathetic, where I could feel for the other person, but not take that grief on myself. And that was a hard thing to learn, but very necessary. Well, I think just getting older and living life makes you grow, but I certainly learned a lot from my patients, and they often say when you give something, you get more in return, and so I think that I probably got way more in return as far as maturing and understanding. So I learned a lot in nursing, and I really enjoyed it while I did it. A big part of who I am is because of my children. So they have shaped me as well as I have shaped them. How grateful I am to have them, and grateful that I could provide for them. But I was thinking of the three most wonderful things in my life are my two children and Harry. Marion and I followed the same life path. We grew up we were 2 weeks apart in age. We grew up in the same town. We were friends together and did a lot of things together. She followed me into the same nursing school a year later. So all of our friends that we had during our younger years are the same ones. After they were married and I was married, because we were married in the same month, the same year, we saw each other occasionally. When our high school class would get together, Marion and Harry would pick me up sometimes. And shortly after Marion died, Harry called me up and wanted to know if he could take me to this group of people that gets together. So I said, well, yeah, I'd like to get together with them. So I went because I thought, well, Harry probably needed some comfort and consolation. Harry started. He came. I invited him to supper because I thought he might like that, but never, ever thinking that this would develop into a relationship, because I felt kind of guilty about being with my friend's husband. That was very hard for me, that maybe it was the wrong thing, you know. He kept coming back, and I kept saying yes, so finally I fell in love with him. He asked me to marry him, and I said yes. So I moved to Butler, and that's where I live now, and I'm very happy. I just felt like a woman. It was nice to be treated nicely by a man, and the most wonderful things. So Harry has shaped who I am now, because I can be a wife again, and I have somebody to share pleasures with, and joys and sorrows. He listens to me. I get mad often. I have a temper, and I'm not very good at holding it, so a lot of times I get mad, and he just tolerates it. You know, he doesn't get mad or yell back. He just tolerates it. So that's a great thing. My family is so important, and just they make me happy. You know, even just to know that I love them and that they love me makes me happy. But when I married Harry, I got a whole new family. So that was nice. So I'm thankful for that family that brought me more love into my life. I'm not afraid to be dead. I'm just concerned about how it's going to happen, as I think we all do, because it would be nice if it was sudden and you're fine, and then all of a sudden you're not. I have no idea what it is going to be like. I'm not afraid of death because I think that there's life afterward. My name is Linda Bryant, and I'm leaving a legacy.